best as a singer, songwriter, and an independent artist. She was the first independent artist to have her music and videos added to Radio Disney, Disney Channel, and Nickelodeon Music. Also, an actress herself, co-starring alongside Kelly Rutherford and many more on Hallmark Channel's Love, of Course. She is currently in the process of releasing her second EP early next year of The Awakening Volume 2. I am so excited and honored to have Chloe Caroline as today's guest on My World with Stories podcast.
How's it going?
Hi.
We finally made it.
Yay.
Crazy. How are you?
Good, how are you?
Great. It's been crazy times, but good.
Welcome. So first up, I always ask this question on my podcast is how did you get started to where you are now musically, especially being back from Manhattan Beach, California, and how did you know that you were supposed to do music and create it?
Yeah, that's a great question. So I think my whole life I was really drawn to music from a really young age. Obviously my parents would play me lullabies at night and I would sing myself to sleep, and it just was something that would always soothe me. So it's always kind of had that healing power to it. And then I remember, I grew up in a household with a lot of different types of music. My dad was a singer-songwriter, my grandpa was a singer, and so he played me everything, all the oldies, everything from Frank Sinatra to Fleetwood Mac, all of those different genres and different time periods of music. And I was always, I feel understanding things that most kids wouldn't, as far as lyrically and stuff too. And it would impact me emotionally a lot. And I realized that it became my escape and my place to go when I needed to feel something, I guess, or needed to feel understood. Then when I was 6, I started playing piano, and that's kind of when I first started actually writing songs. And I didn't really know what I was doing. I just did it. I loved to make up melodies and stuff. And and then it wasn't until I was 11 that I really dove into it. I had been really sick. I had been pulled out of my 6th grade year, and kind of in that isolation away from all my friends and everything I was used to doing, I turned to writing, creative writing, and also playing guitar. And I taught myself guitar on YouTube, and it was just, it was my outlet. And I became obsessed with discovering other people that were singer-songwriters on YouTube. And I would literally type in my original song to discover new music and find other people that did what I did. I became obsessed with it, and then started posting stuff on Facebook. And when I eventually went back to school, were responding really positively to it, and oh, we really relate to your music. A lot of people had no idea that I was even a singer, really, besides really close friends, because I wasn't that kid that was center of attention, you know what I mean, singing at all the state fairs and stuff. It was once a year at the talent show, and I would do a piano recital, or I did choir, but I was a bedroom singer-songwriter for sure. I was definitely shy when it came to sharing that. Even though I was very social and bubbly otherwise.
That was kind of like me. I sing myself. I don't know that, but
I do actually. I saw some of your videos the other day, and I didn't know that. And then I was I think I asked you for your Instagram.
Yeah,
stalked you.
that was me. A lot of people at my school didn't know that I sang, that I did a podcast and all that, because I like you said, I don't like to be a bragger about it. I don't like to, if people see it, then that's another thing. But I totally relate to that.
Yeah, it's funny how eventually though, if your soul feels this is what I'm supposed to be doing, and you just keep kind of following that, the more you break out of your shell, and the rest of your journey kind of starts becoming a lot clearer. And so for me, it was just something I knew I had to keep doing it. And it's funny because I even look back at old Facebook videos that I posted, and obviously I cringe now at them, and I'm I can't believe you did that. But I'm like, dang, like she had like balls to post that stuff.
Yeah.
Like that's crazy. Like you know what I mean? I'm like, whoa, like I can't believe that I posted that. But at the time it was like I think I knew that it was like something I was supposed to do. Like I felt called to share something. Yeah, and it kind of grew from there. I moved to Nashville, Tennessee, which kind of kicked off my career on like a bigger level. I went to college there, and for the first time ever was like surrounded by people that did what I did, which was interesting.
That's great.
Yeah, it was definitely one of those things where I had never, even though I grew up in LA, I was still in a really small beach town, and it wasn't like I was like joyriding around Los Angeles, and I didn't really have a ton of other friends that wrote their own songs. Like I had one really close friend that I sang with, and we would do like the talent show together and stuff like that. And I did choir, but it just, yeah, otherwise like didn't really know anybody. You have to, I mean, for me, I knew it. I had to like, I loved California so much. I was like, I gotta leave to experience somewhere else and like grow and like throw myself into like the world that is music there. Um, to get better and write with people that are even better than me and older than me or completely write different genres than me and yeah, that kind of like kickstarted everything.
So you're an independent artist, and that is so cool. Uh,
Thank
can you explain to everyone tuning into this episode what an independent artist is and why people should value them, or people that are in any independent field?
Yeah, so basically an independent artist is, is someone who obviously is creating their art and doing everything.
Yeah.
Pretty much I wear like so many different hats. It's crazy. Everything from the marketing to creating the content, to writing the songs, obviously to singing them, booking the shows, and essentially I'm like self-funded, which has always been interesting, but you always find a way to make it work. And yeah, it means I'm basically like as a singer-songwriter, at least like not tied to like a label or a publisher right now. And yeah, totally independent. Obviously, along the way, you find your people, your army, your support squad of different creatives that you get to co-create with, which is really cool. So of course, I have incredible, friends that have helped me out, or videographers that I've worked with and hired, and different, PR people, things like that. But still, a large bulk of the work is on an independent artist or an independent entrepreneur or whatever. And it's a lot. It's a lot of moving parts. But I always say like no one's gonna believe in me more than I believe in me. So I think that like lights the fire under my butt for sure. And also just the fact that like, as much as it's exhausting at times, and of course, like there's a part of me that, is really hoping to like relieve some of that. And it's so nice when someone comes in and helps out. It's also cool to know what's going on and like be really aware of like the different parts of my career and be able to like have control over them too. And kind of I guess like forecast what I want for my career, without somebody being like, do this, you get to kind of have a little bit more freedom. It's like I have my own podcast too, and I just woke up one day and I said I really wanted to make a podcast, and because for me it's like I always say like I want to use my creativity to my full potential. Like it's only going to help my music to be able to like have these conversations with people and pretty much like expand the message that I'm already, doing with my music. Yeah.
Well, I totally understand because people always ask me all the time, they're like, who edits the podcast? Who does that? Who
Yeah.
gets the business cards? I'm like, me. Yeah.
Yeah. Yep. It's definitely, it's a lot, but it's, I don't know, it's very rewarding too at the same time, especially when you have, big wins, little wins, whatever, to kind of be like, I started here, but again, I gotta give credit to the people that have jumped on board who have believed in me too.
that's wickedly cool about you being an independent artist is you're actually the first independent artist that had your videos and music added to Radio Disney, Disney Channel, and Nickelodeon. So you kind of broke a barrier for independent artists and for women that are in that type of field. How does that make you feel?
Oh, that's really cool. That's really cool to hear it put like that, I guess. It was, I mean, it was pretty surreal when it happened because I was still in college and I had grown up obviously watching Disney Channel. So, like, of course, like my dream, I was obsessed with Hannah Montana. Like, literally, yeah, like my dream was to be on Disney Channel or have like my music, on those shows, whatever. And so when it happened, it was very unexpected too. Like I had at that time been working really hard at building my fan base and started doing it through this app called Pic Collage, which at the time was kind of like an Instagram collage making app. And there's people and kids from all over the world that were on there, and I could like basically like place like my music videos like in the collage and kids could watch it. And like there weren't a lot of other musical artists on there. So it kind of gave me a platform to stand out. And so all of a sudden, like a bunch of traction, and like within like a month, I had like 300,000 followers on there and it was crazy. And then I started kind of applying what I was doing there to Instagram and the other social media. There wasn't TikTok yet, but yeah, kind of that like one-on-one interaction. And it was so crazy to me how people would be like, oh my gosh, you're actually responding, or asking me for advice and stuff like that, and me being able to like open up this communication, which is also equally scary because you're like, 12-year-olds are trusting me, but at the same time, I was like, well, I have an opportunity here to like potentially like help someone or at least try, or just be their friend and acknowledge them. And yeah, and it was pretty cool. So from there, I, started getting like online radio station ads and just things started happening. And then I got invited to go and say hi to the people at Radio Disney. And they were just so kind and so sweet, and ended up, yeah, basically adding my music video at the time on Disney Channel. And that was wild. And then Nick Music ended up happening like right after that, which was so cool.
Wow.
Yeah, it was pretty mind blowing. But it was also very humbling when I was nannying at the time, and I was like wiping like crumbs off of the floor, and I like remember like looking up and my song was like playing on Disney Channel.
Yeah.
So like yeah, it's just that's like that is being an independent artist, like having some of these wins and then the reality of also at the same time, having the other things that come with it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like it's cool because like you're an independent artist and you could say like, "Oh, I did that's what I did." So that's pretty cool.
Yeah, I appreciate that. Yeah, and it is cool like as a female artist too, because yeah, like especially on radio, like it's definitely more competitive.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah. There's so many female artists out there.
Yeah, exactly. And then at the same time, like the male artists tend to be pushed more for whatever reason. There's a lot of different things that play into that. But
So speaking of music, you actually this past year just released a brand new EP called The Awakening Vol. 1 with 6 tracks, which I listened to and I thought that they were really, really cool. Um, so now you actually have a new single out, Boyish. So
yeah.
how did that song like all come about?
Oh, fun question. So I actually started that song like 4 years ago, which is crazy. I started it like before even the last EP came out. And I had seen like Maddie Ziegler post like some caption that said boyish. And I was like, that would be like a really interesting song title. Like, what is it about? And I like started thinking about, I guess, my relationships and the kind of man-children behavior. And it was also just like at a point in my life when I was kind of realizing like, yeah, I guess this certain behaviors and energies that weren't serving me anymore, or hadn't in the past when I was like reflecting on a past relationship. And then also seeing like what my friends were dealing with in their love lives, and kind of wanting to write a song where it, of course, like kind of calls them out, but more importantly empowers whoever's on the other end, guy or girl, because I think it can also go both ways. There's super immature women too, girls, to really take back their power and kind of, instead of waiting for somebody to change their behavior, you deciding to like make the change. And it doesn't necessarily mean like they're a bad person or whatever, but like there are certain people that just like aren't serving you anymore, and we have to, we have control over that to a certain degree. And yeah, and especially if there's something that we really want and believing that it actually exists, like a really healthy relationship or somebody who is going to meet you on the same page and show up, or, not being in a situationship that's leaving you feeling worse about yourself. Why are we doing that? And so, yeah, that's pretty much Boyish.
The way you act don't fit the suit you're walking in. I think you're boyish. You're boyish. Oh, you wanna take but you don't give. Well, you're never gonna get your wish. 'Cause I think you're boyish. You're boyish.
Started it in Nashville, and then it actually like made its way to Thailand, and it did some work on it there because I got an opportunity to go record there. And then I came back to Nashville, and we like, scrapped a bunch of it and started over. It's had a journey, but here it is.
Yeah, that's good though.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm hoping it's positive. I never want to make music that like shits on people. Because that's not what it's supposed to be. Like, there's a difference between like the mood of like I'm over it, and I guess I also too am like never gonna sit here and like play the victim, because we all have an opportunity to take a situation and transform it into something else.
Going back to like your EP, which you made this past year, like is there like a favorite song on that EP that you really just love?
That is so tough. Yeah, I mean, of course, there's many, but Saving Space is probably my favorite. Again, really hard to say, but that song, even like now, like I get chills every time I play it, and it's a song that I wrote at a really pivotal like point in my journey, and I was like going through a spiritual awakening, and also just like very much intentionally trying to heal myself and find joy in my life, like alone, like single for like the first time in like 5 years. Like I'd gotten into a relationship pretty young, and had walked away from it, and yeah, I was intentionally alone, like focused on me. And at the same time, like I knew that I wanted to meet somebody who was, again, on my same wavelength, the what I believed to be out there. Yet this specific idea of exactly maybe who it was like holding me back, or the timing that I really wanted it to come through in. Even though I kept telling myself like I'm not in a rush, like I am really happy, because I was. But I still kind of was like, I don't know, I feel like looking for it, even though I wasn't like going out on dating apps or even like really trying to put it out there. I feel like part of me kept hoping that it would show up, I guess, sooner. And so and I think also like it was kind of one of those things where I was so afraid that letting go meant giving up, because I had let myself stay in a situation that wasn't serving me for a very long time. And so I kind of was like, I don't want to settle again. I don't want to settle. And so with that being said, I was like, well, if I let go of this idea that it could happen, like my dream come true, equal partnerships, beautiful love, like what does that mean? Does that mean I'm giving up on it? And I finally got to a point where I was like, well, I have to let go, and I have to surrender and believe that like it's already here. It's already happened. All I have to do is focus on loving me like I would love that other person, basically. And it'll show up in perfect timing. And I can trust myself that, if something is not serving me and shows up, that I won't immediately accept it. That I'll like have those boundaries and yeah, set the level for myself, if that makes any sense whatsoever.
Yeah.
And yeah, so basically sometimes we gotta make room for what's actually meant for us, and let go of like self-limiting beliefs and timing, and just trust that it's already here, and whether it's a relationship or something else. And it's funny because with that song specifically, it went from being a song that literally was kind of like, listen, like, you're always the person that's on the back of my mind. Like, if it's meant to be, it'll be, and it's probably going to be you. And if we had another chance, like, I'll probably still always remember this and you'll be there. And then it turned into more me realizing that, like, no, it doesn't matter if it's this specific person. It's that energy or better. And so I started kind of like manifesting that or better. And yeah, it did end up showing up.
Stars collide with some, I know gravity's taking all control now. I can find love and it could work out, but it's not too late, 'cause here's the truth. I won't wait, it could all leave room. I'm still saving space for you. Space for you.
They're all great on the EP, and I really like them.
Yeah, I appreciate it.
So you have an aspect about you that not too many people have, which is storytelling. And when you're writing a song, how do you like know what to like write about? Or I guess you could say, what's like your writing process like? Like what draws you to write?
Yeah, I think there's a couple different ways that I go about writing. A lot of it depends if I'm writing totally alone, if I'm writing with somebody else, with a producer. Yeah, it just comes about a little bit differently. When I'm writing by myself, oftentimes it's kind of just like in the moment. Like I'll literally like sit down like with my guitar, with my piano, or I'll literally be like cooking in the kitchen and I'll hear a melody in my head, and all of a sudden, like, it is really weird. It'll just kind of come out. I always say I can't really ever take credit for it. Like, it's the weirdest thing. Like, I'll be sitting there and I'll like kind of like, I sound like a crazy person, but I'll like see like the melody or something like in my head, and within like like sometimes like 10 or 15 minutes, like I have like this song, and I'm like, I don't know where this came from. I guess I was feeling that emotion, and then sometimes obviously like I'm going through something, and I sit down, and that is my way of like just letting it come out and trying to understand it and work through it. Definitely. That's always like, I feel like my favorite, most like authentic Chloe way of writing. But I also, will come up with like, I'll go on walks, I'll come up with like title ideas, I'll come up with concept ideas, melodies, and I'll bring them into a session sometimes. And I'll kind of sit and have a powwow with whoever's in the room with me, and it ends up being kind of like a therapy session. Yeah, and we kind of go from there. And sometimes we start with a chorus, sometimes we totally start from scratch, and a producer just starts playing something on the guitar, and we kind of pull something out of nowhere. But yeah, it's both are really fun. They're different though, for sure.
Like that's how I feel like with video editing. Like I'll edit a video of like how I'm feeling. Like
Yeah.
that's normally like how I do it. And then like same with like a podcast. Like I'll think in my head, I'll be like, oh, I should have that one on, and then I'll picture it. And I'm like, so
Yeah. I think like I always say, yeah, like my favorite songs come from sitting there in this emotion and just like kind of letting it flow out. But then yeah, sometimes like I said with Boyish, I was like, that would be a cool title. Like what can I apply to it that's still like relatable to my life and something I can pull from, but also, to other people's. And like I just started thinking of like, yeah, different situations, and yeah, and so yeah, it's fun to see kind of how things come into existence.
was there ever someone out there that maybe like an artist, actor, whoever that inspired you that you were like, I want to be them, I want to do this? Like, was there someone out there that you just
Mhm. I think there was a couple for sure. When I was really young, I would say like Avril Lavigne. I loved Avril Lavigne. I still love Avril Lavigne. Really loved Michelle Branch, Taylor Swift, of course, Colby Calais, like those female like pop singer, songwriter, whatever storytellers, really. With different influences, of course, and then also like Stevie Nicks, a huge Stevie Nicks fan. Yeah, Gavin DeGraw, even. I've got a lot, but I was never, I feel like, just like exactly one person. But I definitely have had, and it's funny, I've never wanted, because I'm very much like, I never want to be exactly like someone else. Like, it's never been like, I've never been like, they are my entire like idol, but like for maybe different reasons. You know what I mean? Like Dolly Parton, for example, like, and Stevie, like huge inspos because they're just like at the level that they're at. They're just great, humble people. They're sharing their light and love with people in such a beautiful way. They haven't let it get to their egos. And that's something that I just respect like so much. And also just like the different creative ways they've expanded their careers as well. And same with Taylor Swift on that in that regard. Like she's had so many different um facets to her career, and everything she touched turns to gold, and everything's possible, so I really look at that as inspiration, and just anybody who is speaking like their truth and telling their story. Yeah, I love, and I'm also just like a huge person for like melodies too, like really strong melodies. Like as much as I'm a lyric freak, like having a really strong like chorus melody, I'm like, yes.
Yeah. Well, they're all great artists, and like every time like I hear them like on the radio or like on like my phone and stuff, I'm like, how do they have such like a hit like that? Like, and obviously it does take a team to create a hit. Yeah.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
It's pretty cool when you say that you did it all by yourself.
Yeah. It's like, let's be honest.
Yeah. Yeah. I also I was watching something online and it was like someone was saying like, oh, I hate that artist. Like they say that they wrote the song when like 5,000 other people wrote it.
Yeah.
I was like, yeah, I get that.
That's like a big thing for me. I always, everything I do, my co-writers probably think it's annoying, but I like tag them in everything that I have. Like when I have a song release, it doesn't matter if it's an article, like whatever it is. Like it's, to me, it's just as much their song as it is mine. Like, yeah, they've touched it. They've brought some of themselves to it in whatever way, and that's so important. Like that's art.
Very important.
Mm-hmm.
Not only have you done songwriting and being an artist, you've also like done some acting on the screen. On Hallmark Channel's Love, of course, for which you wrote and sang on the soundtrack. So how did that whole process come about, and like what like intrigued you to do it since it was new?
Yeah. So that was again another just, I guess I don't know if I should say random because I think everything happens for a reason, but it seemed random. It came out of nowhere. I had songs in music and TV before, and like a huge like love of mine too, and I love like the two that come together. But acting wise, yeah, I had never acted in my life besides like one commercial I did for Kodak when I was like 8 or something. But it was never something that I was necessarily like at the time like I have to do this, like because I think growing up in LA too, I knew there were so many people that like that was their dream, and for me it was like music and writing, like that was such a yes, like this is what I need to be doing, like I'm good at it. It came to me easier, I guess. And yeah, and so anyways, I had randomly gotten approached, I think because my video had been seen on Disney Channel, and they asked my manager if like I had acted before, and he was like, yeah. He said, sure, yes, she does. And then they had asked for some music, and so I just sent them like a bunch of demos, and specifically for this role, they were looking for more like country pop music. And so when I first started out, my music was definitely more in that space. And so I just sent him like an old EP that I had released, like my first one ever that I thought would never see the light of day again, and then some demos, and I was just like, take it all, see what you like, see if anything fits. And yeah, they ended up being like, we're going to use 6 of the songs, which basically was the entire soundtrack, and you're going to perform them in the movie. And I played a bartender as well, with Kelly Rutherford from The Mom from Gossip Girl was my co-star, and Cameron Matheson, who's on General Hospital, and they were just so encouraging and amazing. And Lee Friedlander was the director, and it was funny. She's actually really good friends with Avril Lavigne. And so she, at the premiere of the movie, which we just watched at her house, she FaceTimed Avril Lavigne and stuck the camera in front of my face. And I was like, I literally like didn't even have like words. Like, so I guess technically I FaceTimed with Avril Lavigne. But anyways, it was an incredible experience. It was like such a growing experience, obviously like outside of my comfort zone, like no direction at all. Like they just kind of threw me up there, and that's kind of how I learned best. I've realized I just have to like push myself into a situation and not, because otherwise I'll just like overthink it. And yeah, and so after that I was like, this was really fun. They're all really positive, like, you're a natural, you should do more of this. And I ended up, that's, you know, around the same time that I decided I was going to move to LA. So I'd never lived there, I guess, as an adult artist, and you know, give it a go with music, but also like just see what happened with acting too, because this is obviously the place for it.
That's so cool. Oh my
Thank
God.
you.
And that was back in 2018.
2018, yeah. Mm-hmm.
That feels like it was like yesterday.
I know, yesterday and a million years ago at the exact same time.
Yep. Do you have any advice that you would like to give for like, especially like people that want to do like what you do, or like music in general?
Yeah, do it. That's literally like the main piece of advice. Do it. I think we get afraid sometimes to start, or to put it out there and to share, and we come up with a million excuses why it's not ready to be shared or heard. And that's the only way that you get better and you figure it out, is by doing it. And I would also say to not, I mean, yes, like I definitely sat and I sang to the radio, and I, you know, imitated artists or learned from artists, and I think that's really helpful. But end of the day, like, this is like your music, and what's going to like set you apart is your individuality. And again, you can reference people all day long, and that's fine, and everybody has influences, but to really figure out like what you want to say and what you have to say and what makes you feel something, and kind of go from there.
Yeah, I like that. I've had a lot of people on my podcast, and every advice that they give is different, and I like that. So
Yeah, well, and I think too, it's like, it's again, people put really high expectations on themselves that, you know, immediately I need to be this good or something, you know. And I look back and I'm like, bro, if you heard some of those Facebook videos, you would be like, how did this happen? And like, I've had like a couple voice lessons ever in my life when I was older, when I was like 20, you know, in my early 20s, like super early 20s. But like barely, like, you know what I mean? Like, I taught myself how to sing, like working with different producers in the studio and getting tips and tricks from them. But like, it was like doing it and like hearing myself back and being like, hey, well, I like this, I don't like this, let's try this. And let's just sing because it makes me feel good. And so it's definitely possible.
oh yeah, totally.
Yeah.
What's next for you? What's next for Chloe? Any
Yeah.
little things that you could say?
Yeah. So Boyish was the first single off of the second EP, The Awakening Volume 2. That's going to be coming out early next year. And so I'm basically releasing a single every single month leading up until then. So lots of music, yeah, lots of videos and content. So that's like first and foremost really, really exciting. So second one is coming end of September. Yep. So it's all happening, and yeah, and let's see what else. Working on getting merch out, playing shows. I'm opening for Magic the Band October 14th here in LA, which will be fun. So yeah, hopefully even like lots of more playing live. I've got some virtual shows also coming up. Another one October 12th, I believe. So people can tune in from all over the world. I just did one last week, which was really cool, and I had never done really like a live full blown like set virtually. And it was so awesome to get to play for people that I've wanted to play for a long time, and just haven't been able to go on tour yet. So yeah, lots of shows, lots of music, merchandise.
Thank you so much for doing this. I'm sorry that it took so long.
Oh, that's okay. Keep it up, dude. I'm proud of you for doing it. Like, I'm glad you're just doing it because you love it, and it'll keep expanding from there.
Yeah, hopefully.
Yeah, and you have a beautiful voice, so definitely keep singing too.
Yeah, and I will keep looking at your stuff online, and I'll comment and stuff.
Oh, thank you. Please do. Yeah, thanks.
Shine in my room, see it peeking through. We could dance around it from a different point of view. Maybe all this sadness don't have to feel so tragic, 'cause I could dance around with you underneath the moon.
Thank you so much for listening and watching to My World with Stories podcast. For more info, go to Instagram and Facebook at My World with Stories podcast, and make sure that you give us a like, a subscribe, a follow, whatever you want. Do it because we love you guys so much. And thanks for